politics. Thank you.
You have mentioned, a constitutional moment, obviously, that necessitated us to come up with a 5-year term for the presidency and 2 consecutive terms. But bearing in mind the conversation that is happening at Bomas, and we'll talk about delimitation in a bit, Mheshimiwa Biego, are we staring at another constitutional moment, looking at the demands that have been made in Bomas?
Well, when you talk about what is happening in Bomas, first and foremost, is that to me it doesn't make sense, because we actually went into an election. A winner came in, the president was sworn in, and after that even the Supreme Court came in and actually said that it was a legit election and the president is legit. So when you now put reference to what is happening in Bomas, I'm just saying that is a waste of time. Yes.
You think it's a waste of time?
Yes.
There's no constitutional moment coming?
I don't think so.
Mheshimiwa Nguna, these talks are being led by you. Party leader.
We have to appreciate the fact that the drafters of the Constitution acknowledge that this Constitution is good, but there is no Constitution which is perfect. And actually, they indicated that 20% of it needs amendments. If there is a popular initiative being introduced by Kenyans, we have got no actually anything against it. We have to accept and move on. Kenyans, if they want popular initiative to be done, which favors them, we have to accept a referendum. So we cannot rule out the possibilities of not having a referendum very soon. And as members of parliament, we have formed a caucus actually for additional counties, and we will be pushing this through parliament. We will not be going through the popular initiative, which the Constitution allows. But if we feel there is need for constitutional moment, I think it is high time we give Kenyans space to express themselves and let them come up with a constitution that is properly governing them. So I can't rule out the constitutional moment.
You foresee a constitutional moment?
Yeah. I think I foresee a constitutional moment. It's possible because of the matters and issues that are on the table that are being discussed by both sides. You see, we talk about our electoral systems. I believe we had a good election, one of the most free, fair, and peaceful election. But of course, we've had agitation later on, like we've had many years. And every time we've had election, we've had some lessons that we've learned from the chaos that have followed. And I think some of the issues that are being canvassed there will definitely, if we have to address them, will definitely require a change of the Constitution, whether through a popular initiative like my friend has suggested, or through the parliamentary process. And yeah.
I would want probably to pose this question to Mheshimiwa Biego. Looking at the issues being canvassed at the Bomas of Kenya, because beyond the results of the elections in 2022, there appears to be another innate, I would say even suspicions amongst Kenyans, for example, why you would want to see a Suba county, I don't know what county. There appears to be deep suspicions amongst Kenyans. Don't you think that is a matter that probably that should necessitate a constitutional moment?
I don't think so, because you go and ask yourself first, what is the purpose of that particular Bomas engagement? What necessitated it? What are the main concerns? What is the discussion there? And why are they discussing? I think the main thing that to me, if I was to be asked, is that there are some good things being discussed there, especially like the creation of the office of the opposition, because that one is going to put the government on its toes. But all those other things which are being discussed, really, it's neither here nor there. Yeah, so I think that there's nothing much that is going to come out from there.
All right, there's nothing much that is going to come from the talks, according to Mheshimiwa Biego. But let's go to the in-depth details of boundary delimitation. Mheshimiwa Nguna, first of all, even before we get to the constituencies, because there's also an issue around constituencies, Why do you want to split Kitui?
You know, when we came up with devolution in this country, one of the main objectives of devolution was actually to take the interest of the marginalized and also the minority in this country. And for Kitui, for instance, it has become totally impossible for anyone from Mwingi to become a governor. Because people, we cannot dispute the fact that people have been voting in terms of where they come from. Yeah. When you compare Mwingi and the Lancha Kitui and the Lancha Mwingi, the Lancha Mwingi is totally disadvantaged because it has got 3 constituencies versus 5 constituencies. And these 5 constituencies in Kitui, the Lancha Kitui always vote in favor of a candidate coming from anywhere in Kitui. But the other ones in Mwingi fought in favor of the candidate coming from Mwingi. And also, we look at the issue of what we call historical injustice, or rather, there is disadvantages in terms of resource allocation. Most of the mega projects we have witnessed recently, they have been done in Kitui, the Lancha Kitui, because all the governors are coming from there, but they have not been implemented in Mwingi. So these historical kind of disadvantages are the ones which are agitating members and even the people of Kitui County to agitate for the elimination of the counties, and additional counties are inevitable. And I also listened to members from Sumba. They are arguing they have been placed with the Nilots and the Ambadus. And one of the issues we raised is, of course, protection of the marginalized and the minorities. So every minority person is feeling disadvantaged in these counties, and it is time to consider their request and give them their county to express their autonomy in terms of decision making, in terms of delivery services.
Mheshimiwa Haro, I'm wondering if county governments or devolution continues then to marginalize, because according to Mheshimiwa Nguna, marginalization has continued even after devolution. Then why not just wind up devolution then if it continues to advance marginalization? Yeah,
I think I'll slightly beg to differ about the devolution and its impact, whether it has succeeded or not. Yeah. I tend to believe, especially for some of us who come from northern Kenya, areas which historically have been marginalized by successive Kenya independent governments, there are areas where devolution for us, 2010, after we passed the Constitution 2010, was like the 1963 for other Kenyans. It was like our independence was coming then, because of the promises that the 2010 Constitution was giving us. 2010 Constitution was promising, the marginalized groups will be catered for. It was promising equalization, was promising, fairness, equity, cohesion, and all of those things, which were a problem to us before the 2010 Constitution. And that became like our independence. There are challenges in the counties. Yes, there is corruption which has been devolved from the center to the periphery. Yes, but the little that has, gone to the people, that little has been life-changing. Like, for example, I remember the first year of devolution in Mandera County, for example, where I come from. We calculated the amount of money that had come in that year, for Mandera County, vis-a-vis the money that government has sent to Mandera County since independence. And that 1 year money for devolution was more than all the money that the government has sent to Mandera County since independence up to 2013. So you can imagine, so for us, devolution is something that we'll protect and defend with our lives.
Okay. All right. Quite interesting. Mheshimiwa Biego, there are those who dismiss this clamor for, dividing counties probably to cater for those other interests, because there are those who think this exercise is just about massaging egos of several people, but then at the same point mutilating the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya.
Well, different counties have different needs, and I believe that they are unique and would need a kind of a unique arrangement. So to me, I would say that a county probably like mine, I come from Nandi County. Nandi County, though not marginalized, but at least we are people who are agriculture based and would need policies and would need a conversation towards agriculture. Probably some other counties would prioritize those people who have animals, who are the other counties like Kisumu, who would prioritize issues to do with fish. So to me, I see that different counties would have different needs. Yeah,
and therefore this conversation should accommodate all those needs.
Yes.
Okay. Mheshimiwa Nguna, at the beginning of this conversation, you said you will not entertain any conversation that mutilates the Constitution. What is the difference between your proposal to have extra counties and the proposal to add the president 2 extra years?
Actually, there was, in terms of Constitution, 47, there was no threshold. We have to agree on that.
Okay.
These are just people who just sat down and decided to make 47 counties without necessarily actually considering what was the other 20% of the bad side of the Constitution. So by doing so, I think we are going to have inclusivity of everybody. We will have equitable distribution of resources across the whole country, and people will participate in decision making. If you look at some of these counties like Kitui County, where I come from, Kitui County is bigger than actually Machakos, Makueni, Tharaka, and Kirinyaga combined. It is bigger than Rwanda. How do you develop a country that you are calling a county? Kitui is bigger than Rwanda in terms of land mass, and it's an unfortunate aspect of it is everywhere it has a settlement. We don't have national parks or large tracts of land without people. So those places, they need drifts, they need water, they need access to electricity and many other things. So it has become impossible to develop a county bigger like Mandera, like Wajir, like Garissa, like Kitui County, like Turkana. And that is why we feel there's need to create more additional counties, to devolve the resources further to the ground, to at least to reach each and every Kenyan. To me, I think it will be an added advantage of equitable distribution of resources in this country. And most of the areas which have not even seen a single cent of government money will at least get something.
All right.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Biego, hold that up, because I see you have response. Because obviously the question of the overall cost must always come to the minds of Kenyans when you talk about extra counties. There are those who would argue even managing the 47 or having to put up with the 47 counties is already a burden on the taxpayer. An extra 5 would obviously strain the taxpayer. Mheshimiwa.
Yeah, I think, well, if you compare the amount of money that's stolen in this country every day, and then you remember the former president actually put a figure on it, that 2 billion per day stolen from this country. I don't think there will be any harm if we seal those loopholes where the money is disappearing to, and then we create new counties where people will receive more services and more benefits in terms of developing their own lives. But having said that, there are also some Kenyans of the other opinion that instead of creating more counties, we can have this conversation and have a condensed number of counties. You know, some are even talking of having the former 8 provinces so that we can have 8 counties. And so this is a healthy conversation. We can have it. And but if you look at the perspective of resource sharing, national cake sharing, definitely the argument honorable member is having is making a lot of sense, especially for those of us who come from regions which have been left behind for many years. You remember we had equalization fund which was promised in 2020. I mean in 2010 constitution, and a few years down the line, those counties which are well endowed, some of them want to be defined as having pockets of marginalization so that they can share the equalization fund with those marginalized counties. So if you have that kind of a system in a country where issues around fairness, issues around equity, issues around, systems working in a fair way, people will always have this notion of, maybe if I have my own county, I will attract resources to the government. We are not at that stage where we can stand and say we are confident the system will distribute these resources fairly, so we don't mind whether we have 47 counties or we have 20 counties, our people will be reached. So it is that kind of unfairness which is making Kenyans feel, well, if maybe I am not identified with the Bantus, I may stand to gain.
All right, much more big. Yes.
To me, what I see is that what informs the creation of more counties, and now that the country with the 47 counties, it is not even effective enough. What makes people think that by the creation of more counties it would be effective? So to me, I would like that this constitution which created 47 counties is still a new baby. It has not yet achieved its maximum fruits, and the area is it the population that would inform creation of counties, or is it the area? Because I think would go by statistics, so that it is the people themselves who would inform the creation of more counties, the population. Otherwise, if it is just a matter of creating more counties, it can even bring more problems than what we are in right now.
I totally differ with my colleague here, Paul. For example, when we created more constituencies from 190, how many? 190 to 290. We saw we witnessed a lot of resources trickling down to even the most remotest part of the country. So by additional counties, we are just doing the same exercise the way we created more constituencies. And I think any actually resizing of any default boundary, actually, it's a plus always. If you have a smaller county, chances of developing that county is better than having a bigger county. If you have a bigger constituency, chances of developing it's not easy. And we witnessed when we had 190 constituencies, some of the villages were never reached by resources. But the more we divided our constituencies and became 290, we started seeing every village getting at least something. I think by creating these additional counties, and we are not asking many, they are less than 10, we will reach each and every corner of this country, and things will work out. I'm not saying it because actually I want Mwingi County, but I'm considering Kenyans, the way these things came up with the 2010 constitution, the way they came up with these counties. There was no proper formula. For example, Mwingi got district the same time with Makueni. Why was Mwingi not given a county when Makueni was getting? Same as Ngucha. Ngucha got district the same time with with other counties which got counties. Why Ngucha was not given a county? We have to consider all these aspects, because the motto and the objective of the devolution was first to take even to express the interests of the marginalized and the minority.
All right.
Yes.
Quite an interesting conversation there you make. But of course, as you've spoken about constituencies, In 5 months, Mheshimiwa Haru, we run another risk. We don't have a fully constituted IEBC. We have 27 constituencies that should be scrapped, and we don't have an IEBC. Where to go? Even as we push the conversation around creating extra counties, what about the constituencies?
Well, the question of not having IBC, I think it's a lacuna in law. We never envisioned a time in this country where we will have all the, are they 6 or 7 commissioners out of office. And I think this is a lesson for the country. Definitely something needs to be done going forward. Either amend the law so that life can go on even when all the commissioners are out of office. Like for example, the Mandera County where I come from, we unfortunately lost one member from Banisa constituency. And the people of Banisa are now almost over 6 months without representative in parliament. You know, they don't even know when they will get their member of parliament, while other constituencies are busy, MPs lobbying, departments, whatever. These Kenyans are suffering, just waiting to see when these wrangles between the two big formations will end, and then the IBC will be constituted. So this question of IBC is a question that is a big challenge for us now. But having said that, I think if you had seen the statement from Honorable Kalonzo today,
yes,
I tend to agree with him. I think we need to make sure that those 26 constituencies you are talking about did not reach the threshold that was required in 2012 when we were doing our delimitation of boundaries, and they were protected. Actually, they are even called today protected constituencies. Why do you remove the tag of protection now? And yet they have been protected even when we were not having more demands like now. So I think those 26 counties, those 26 counties which were protected, should still remain protected. And those ones which are threatened, because in 2019 we did another census, which changed even the threshold of the number of people that are required per constituency, and therefore those ones which are going to be threatened, and I'm told there are about another 17 or 14,
40 actually,
another 14, so that there are 40 constituencies which are under threat. I feel none of them, because constitutionally the number of constituencies are pegged to 290. So if you lose any of those, it means we'll have a constitutional crisis. You cannot add or remove the number of constituencies. The only thing IBC can do is to toy around with whether to merge some of them or whether to change boundaries here and there. They can only tamper with wards, and that is also a problem, because some of these wards represent resources for some communities.
But you see, Mheshimiwa Haru and Mheshimiwa Biego, I think that's the biggest headache right now, because that role squarely lies with the IBC. When you look at what is happening at the Bomas, except haggling between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, there doesn't appear to be much ground covered towards having IBC with its full 7 commissioners. Mheshimiwa Biego.
I think earlier when you asked, and I mentioned what the purpose of the people in Bomas, what they're doing. I believe one of the critical aspects, or what they need to do, is actually to ensure that, because that was what the opposition was saying, that they need a conversation about IBC. And I believe that is what is supposed to be very, very critical, because now if that doesn't happen, then we'll be time bad. Of course, we know the Constitution says that boundary reviews are done between 8 years and 12 years, and we are just now about to be on 12 years. So if they do not constitute an IBC commission, we don't get commissioners, then we are going into a crisis. So I think that one is extremely important, and I believe it's just that there are many other interests that you may think and look like the IBC aspect has not been considered much, but I believe that by the time they finish with those talks, that has to have been factored in, because that's a major player.
All right. Mheshimiwa Nguna, we're already in a constitutional crisis. How do we navigate through this?
If I was IBC, actually, I would not even tamper with constituencies the way they are. Okay. Because already we have factored CDF. The more wards you have, the more resources you are getting. The lesser wards you have, the less the CDF you are getting. So this time round, let us not really tamper with the constituencies at the moment. Let us maintain the 290 constituencies without necessarily adding them. But when it comes to matters of CDF, we will be able to balance, and we will be able to take more resources to where a constituency is bigger than the other one. And I think that exercise will just be good for Kenyans. Let us avoid issues of constituency delimitation at the moment, because it is like giving a child a banana and then taking it back when you have already, like for example, one of the constituencies which is going to be affected is Othaya, which is too small. You have already created Othaya constituency, and people know they come from Othaya constituency.
And for some time,
then when you merge it, it means Nyeri County is going to lose one constituency, and it will probably be taken to Kiambu. You will disadvantage that county totally, and you will create discord among the people, among the Kenyans, and I think that exercise should be stopped. The exercise we are supposed to consider right now is additional counties, not constituencies.
Probably before I go to Mheshimiwa Haro, because you obviously, because the process of boundary delimitation, unless you guys amend the constitution, is there, and the timelines are available. Probably when you speak to your colleagues who sit in the bipartisan committee, do they see the urgency of the crisis at hand?
It is practically possible. We are in 2024, 2023. We still have 2024, 2025, and we only say 1 year before elections. So even 2026, we can have boundaries delimitation without actually tampering with anything in the constitution. So I think it is possible. 2024 we can have a referendum and do additional counties without even sweating, without even thinking. So I think we have a lot of time between now and 2027
to delimit the boundaries. Mheshimiwa Haro, as this conversation goes on, the IEBC appeared before that committee on Friday, the CEO, Hussein Marijan. And one of the proposals they're making is that this function of boundary delimitation, another crisis, be removed from the purview of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
I will definitely agree with that.
You will support that?
I will support that. But let me say, first about the question of the IBC and its constitution and whether it's there or not. I think if there is one agenda that both parties at the bipartisan talks are agreed on almost unanimously, is the question of the constitution of the IBC. And I think that would be the much easier agenda for all the agendas that they are discussing there. Although I know our friends in Azimio would really want this crisis to drag on so that it becomes a problem for the ruling Kenya Kwanza government. But I think there's a lot of understanding from both parties that IBC is a very crucial, but this being Kenya, definitely you would expect some real struggle about it. And that is why I think we need to create, whether creating another independent boundaries commission away from IBC. Although practice all over the world has been, when they are both merged, both functions are merged under one institution, they are more effective because one is a subset of the other and it depends on the other. You know, they use, the IBC uses the boundaries, delimitation, the population census, the voters' numbers, because this is all about national cake, national resources, and how they are distributed. And it's also a very sensitive matter, especially for presidential candidates, because you see the Constitution here says you have to have 50 plus 1%, and then 25% in half of the
constituencies,
47 counties. And therefore, how these boundaries are going to be done is a very serious issue for all the presidential candidates or the would-be presidential candidates. So it's a very sensitive matter, but Kenya, my friend, is a very resilient country.
All right.
We have come through.
Yes, just let me tell my good friend here that probably this issue of boundaries should not exceed 2024, because what in Chapter 7, Article 89, if I may read it, it gives IEBC the responsibility to review names and boundaries of electoral areas at intervals of not less than 8 years and not more than 12 years. So we cannot go beyond 12 years. From the last one, which was done in 2012.
Before 2013, yes.
Yes.
So that means,
we have already violated the Constitution, but still...
So we keep violating it.
We don't have to add or actually to limit the number of constituencies we have. We can retain if there is no need of actually reviewing the boundaries, and that is why I'm agitating. We move away from the issues of interfering in the current constituencies, 290, then we focus on counties. That is part of boundaries delimitation, actually. If at all we have to do boundaries delimitation, let us focus on creating or adding more counties than actually focusing on constituencies.
I would want to hear your suggestion, because what is here is a constitutional principle that these constituencies, the ones that are the 27 that are earmarked for scrapping, there's a population quota set up. Actually, I think it's 170,000. And these constituencies are probably even far off from attaining it. So what does IEBC do? Because they must do boundary delimitation. What should they do with these constituencies?
I have to say, by the issue of population, let us, for example, I am a member of parliament from Mwingi West. And when the census were being done, I was counted in Lavington. So I am counted as member of Dagoretti South. So we need to actually go into nitty-gritty of the data, actually. Where does Charles come from? Charles is coming from Mwingi West, but he was counted in Lavington when the actual data, the census were taking place. These are some of the things we have to go deeper and analyze our data very carefully before making decisions on the number of people who are existing in that particular constituencies. You might find that when we were doing census, people from Modhaya, they were actually living in Mombasa, they were living in Kisumu, they were living in Nairobi, and those people, they were counted as if they are not from Modhaya constituency. We need to go through the data again and apportion this data, then we come up with a conclusion that maybe Nyeri doesn't need an extra constituency. Move it to Kiambu, where there is population. But I don't agree on the issues of population.
But you see what the Constitution says is very clear. You know, what guides us is the Constitution. And it also further says that the total number of people in a given constituency should be at as nearly as possible equal to the population quota. But they can be greater or lesser than the population quota. And it also states that the Constitution, it states that the population of any constituency must be higher or lower than its quota by 40% for cities, of course. And
that's Article 89.
Yes, 89. Chapter 7, Article 89. Yeah, and it's so clear. And the areas, and sparsely populated areas, and 30% for other areas.
In short, you're pro scrapping?
Yes.
Before I take your final remarks.
Yeah, I think, well, we've been there before, where we have had a problem of how do we go about a national issue like that. And that is why even in the Constitution we have something called affirmative action. affirmative action has been used severally in this country to deal with a problem issue like the one we're having. And again, I don't think it's only about the population quota. You know, those people who come from more populous areas, they will talk about 1 shilling, 1 vote. You know, they think they are underrepresented because there are very many, blah, blah. And those people who come from much more sparsely populated areas like where I come from, we also talk about 1 kilometer, one vote principle. And both of them have a point. Because when I was doing my campaigns for election, I could go to a village 100 kilometers from another village just to talk to about 50 voters. You know, and then move. That's why election in my region becomes very expensive. The logistics itself is really a headache. And all those Kenyans require representation. They require services. They require everything. So it's a fine balance of how we go about it. And
John, actually, to add on what my colleague has just said, what do you develop? Is it people or land? You develop both. You develop human population, and at the same time you develop land. For example, if I come from a vast constituency, I need more schools to cater for children traveling from a long distance than a person who is coming from just densely populated area who will just build a 2-story building to cater for the population. But also, if I come from a vast constituency, I need to do a certain number of kilometers of road to reach every corner of the constituency. So this issue of population, considering population alone, should not actually be used. We should combine both aspects of population and land.
1 man, 1 kilometer.
Yes, of course. Of course.
But you see,
as we wind up,
the honourable member knows too well that that would be possible because we are members of parliament on amendments. But you cannot, this would just be wishful thinking. Otherwise, we have to follow the constitution.
And that lies squarely in the House.
In the House, yes.
The constitution is perfect. Constitution can be amended.
You know,
constitution can be amended.
On one hand, you don't want to mutilate the constitution.
Yes.
On the other, you say the constitution can be changed.
I said the 2010 constitution, 80% was very good. Even drafters of this acknowledged the same. So we need to actually to correct this 20% to cater the interests of every Kenyan.
Okay.
So when, by virtue of saying we need also to consider the land size and population at the same time, actually, we are just adding another element of the constitution. And if it's a popular thing, Paul has got no business actually to reject it, because majority of Kenyans comes from arid and semi-arid areas. And for us to implement development in those places, it requires miracles actually to reach some of the villages with the little resources we have.
Right.
But don't you think that is my job and your job to do
Definitely.
the amendments? Yes.
Mheshimiwa Haro, I think I'll start from your end. I'll give you 1 minute, because the question here is the way forward. Because as much as you say Kenyans are resilient, I think the next 2-3 years don't just need resilience, they need proactive actions.
Yes.
What is the way forward?
The way forward is, I think the bipartisan team should, as a matter of priority, establish the IBC. Because these issues of boundary delimitation are issues which are now due. We have not done it since 2012, and we cannot go beyond 2024 before we have done the delimitation. And there are a lot of interest and politics around it, because resources are pegged on it, representation is pegged on it, politics is pegged on it. So many things are pegged on it, and therefore we'll need enough time for the IBC to be able to, and the IBC should be resourced. They asked for 7.2 billion to carry out the boundary delimitation process. I think the budget has been prepared for them, but I think they will need enough resources to also carry out this activity. So going forward, we want the bipartisan acts to be, for once, to have the Kenyan spirit, and they can haggle about all the other issues later on, but they must agree as a matter of priority the establishment of the IBC, so that people like from my county who are in Banisa constituency don't continue suffering. I know there are very many wards which are ready for by-elections, which are also languishing without representation. Absolutely. So this is a matter of priority, and I think the rest we can deal with it as Kenyans.
Okay, Charles, your 1 minute. What is the way forward?
The way forward is, first of all, to constitute IBC soon as possible, like yesterday. We need IBC in place. Even people who did by-elections recently, they never got payment. We are still waiting for them to be paid. Like in my ward, one of my my ward in my constituency, Kioria, an award, people were never paid their dues, and we need IBC in place to get them compensated. Secondly, we lost a member of parliament. In parliament right now, we are not properly constituted. We are lacking one member of parliament. So 289 constituencies are being present, minus one. So we are actually violating our constitution. We have gone 6 months without a member of parliament, and these areas need representation. So IBC should be constituted on or before end of this year, for to cater the interests of the people. The other way forward, let us come to the table and create more additional counties.
From just you 1 minute way forward.
Well, to me, what I think is urgent in the bipartisan team are two things. One is the constitution of to constitute the IBC, and number two is, as I had earlier said, the office of the opposition, so that they do not start thinking that they can still get into government. And lastly, the money that was allocated to IBC, I foresee also a problem ahead, because the money that was allocated was, I think, 4.5. The conversation we should be having right now is that what should we add the IBC on the supplementary? But if we go round and round this issue, then we'll also be caught up with time. Yeah, so I think they should move fast.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mheshimiwa Abdul Haro, Mheshimiwa Charles Ngunai, Mheshimiwa Paul Biego from Chisomei for joining us tonight. And of course, much of what we are talking about lies squarely in your hands as members of Parliament, and we'll be looking at you and how you act in the coming days. That's why we put an end to our conversation tonight. Thank you very much for watching Prime Edition. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Have yourself a good night. God bless.
Government of Turkana welcomes you to the Ehale Center in Lodwar Town for the 7th edition of the Turkana Cultural and Tourism Festival. From 12th to the 14th of October 2023. Come, experience the origin of mankind with its unmatched beauty, from the beaches of Lake Turkana to the oil wells of Lokichar. Live on Channel 1, Radio Taifa and KBC Turkana Service.
Tuache kudanganyana. Hapa mali safi, mali mbichi, kijani kibichi. Tuko Lucky Game, tunashibishana. Dial *570# hash, chagua sanduku ya Lucky Game. Utapata sanduku 7 zinakungoja mahali pale. Chagua yako. Mali kibao, tuko na viti, tuko na vifriji hapa, tuko na TV, tuko na microwave na pia tuko na chapa. All happening kwa *570# jishibishe.
Do you know that what you eat can affect your menstrual health?
This type of cinnamon is important for women who are struggling with missing periods and also irregular periods. Menstruation is supposed to be a natural process in your body. If you're not going through menstruation, that is not normal unless you are going through perimenopause or menopause. I've passed out many times just from losing a lot of blood because of having a heavy flow.
To learn more, join us this week on Thursday